Hello, this is Elijah, and I'm here to discuss my findings from Chapter 1. The first American peoples, migration, settlement, and adaptation. Chapter 1, reading assessment. So if we start along, I kind of started out based off the sections, but I'll tell you what I learned. With the first peoples of the Americas, for me, I've always had this theory, even before this class, that most people probably came from Asia, view that the strait between Alaska and northern Russia. I found that to be really cool that it actually mentioned that and confirmed my theory. I found that very interesting. The original people that first moved here hunted a lot of megafauna, and they did it so much to when it basically went extinct, so that the next generation of people weren't even able to hunt the megafauna and had to hunt bison. And so Clovis, actually, the civilization, was alive during that transition. So they had to adapt to the change. We move on to the Archaic period and the dawn of agriculture. Archaic people used fires to maintain the meadows. I found that to be crazy. Like, using fire to grow? That's crazy. So I thought that was a very interesting fact. Something I'll have to look more into as I want to get further into agricultural studies in college. I think it's interesting that shamans and priests basically ran society. They were only one level below the elites, or maybe elites themselves, of their society. And then I did mention that this was the beginning of agriculture, and that doesn't mean that everybody's doing agriculture. It just means that this is when the split started. This is when society changed to that. Mesoamerica and Peru. I think the most common system during this was the hunter-gatherer. But as I mentioned, this was also the generation of the split. But the split had started to grow really big, more towards agricultural practices. I thought it was interesting that kinships began to form during this period as well. They said that they had longhouses and entire settlements based off families. Instead of just random, families. It was more of a coordinated system of blood relatives. I thought it was also interesting that in a world where gender is highly debated, that the ancient American Indians also believed in two genders. Now, I personally have my own opinion on that, but out of respect, though, I respect that they believe that there was multiple genders, not just a third gender called two spirits, but they believed in all sorts of different beliefs related to that. The agricultural Southwest and the arid interior. This one's interesting because it's more. I have a friend from Phoenix, Arizona, and in Phoenix, Arizona, the Hohokam used advanced irrigation systems to thrive on the land. I think that's incredible. I always thought I love water, and I love farming and agriculture, and so I'm really fascinated by irrigation systems, so that this was an interesting thing to learn. It was sad for me to know that the flood destroyed them. I find that a lot of these stories seem to be related to just civilizations being built up and then falling apart. And even the Pablo Bonita civilization suffered instead of a flood, they got hit by a drought and had to leave Pablo Bonita. But Pablo Bonita is considered very sacred amongst Southwest culture, modern day culture. The Pacific West, so there was a lot of different civilizations. It was a lot more decentralized, which created more diversity in languages, practices, and culture. They were more reliant on hunting and fishing because they were along the coastline, and so they were able to have access to food that more inland civilizations didn't have access to. It was kind of the same with the Eskimos of Alaska in that region. They were known as Inuits or Inuits, the original people that migrated from Asia to Alaska and other places like that. The woodlands, what really interested me because, it's from more of my own personal ancestors, being my great-grandmother being Cherokee. So Adinez and Hopewell, they migrated along the Ohio River, a river I'm actually familiar with. We don't know the name of every river, right? But the Ohio River is one of the more familiar ones to me. Mississippians culture originated from the Indian Hopewell. And then as well as I thought was really cool, because I'm really into geopolitics, modern day, is the concept of alliances and nations working together. In the book, this is the first time it actually mentions where an alliance between nations is formed, the League of Five Nations, and it even mentions that it made them very powerful. So I consider that to be one of the greatest achievements in civilization, a milestone, I would even say. In conclusion, I just want to mention some personal things that I thought about Chapter 1. I was shocked about the amount of civilization in North America. I really, really did not realize how big and how incredibly talented these people were from before 1700s. I'm impressed that Hawaii was settled and has been that way. You can still see the native Hawaiian population still thriving and being respected. Well, as far as I know. I learned that Native Americans were not just tribal hunters in loincloths, but they had civilizations, some huge, some small, and to generalize them into such things like we do in TV and movies, disrespectful to the efforts of humanity that came before what we have. Because what we have is because of them. They built the previous knowledge so that we could have what we have today. Thank you. Have a good day.